Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, the 24 Hours, and the Audi Sport Live Studio. We're here at AudiOnTrack.com. I'm John Hindhoff. We're under a red flag at the Nürburgring for extreme wet weather. We'll talk about the implications of that in just a moment, but let's head straight down to the pits where our reporter Alan McNish is mixing with the guys. All the cars are in. The first point we should make, Alan, is that the rules here say you can work on the cars during a red flag situation. It's not what's known as parc fermé, so there will be work going on here. Oh, not sure Alan can hear me down there.
Well, down here in the pits, I've never felt so much in the heart of the action in my life before. There's a red flag, there's 5 cars in this garage. Everybody is working on the cars, fixing damage, or alternatively, just preparing the car for the next part of the race when that happens to be. But I've got Chris Renke, the head of Audi Sport Customer Racing here. Chris, red flag changes the complete scenario of the race for you.
Absolutely. We said before that this race is all about reacting to new circumstances, and this is a very specific one now. Obviously, we had heavy rain, so therefore I think it's a very responsible action that the race director took here to red flag. That means here in the regulations of the Nürburgring we can come in and we can repair the cars. Repair, obviously, they're built and prepared to run 24 hours, and we only have performed a third of the race as per yet. But there's small service to be done. Here, a quart of oil into the engine. Here, a bit of bodywork repair where it might have been scratched. We will see on the car number 1. We decide to change the gearbox because there has been a mischief that did happen earlier in the race. Now we have the time to do it, so now we will prepare it for the rest of the race.
Okay, talking about strategy, then that's the repairing and preparing for the next part. At the beginning of this race, we started outside the top 10. When we finished at this red flag, we're 1, 2, 3. How does that change your strategy with all of the teams in playing the risk and reward at this time of the race?
Well, we got to clarify, we are 1/3 into the race, and the race distance to come is more than a DTM full season. So, you know, there is a shit lot to come, and therefore it is for us another endurance race to come. Yes, we're in a better position, but when I said before, the starting grid doesn't mean too much in an endurance race. I'm not halfway there just because I'm running 1 to 3. It will be very important to absolutely keep the focus, that we all stay focused on what we do, don't take it easy, that we respect the race because there's a long, long way still to go.
That's very true. Talking about long, we're talking stints of 8 or 9 laps. One thing that we noticed is that Nico Müller, you mentioned DTM, he's leading the DTM Championship. He did 1 stint of 5 laps. What was the reason behind that, a short stint?
Now, we had obviously through the changing weather conditions, we always try to adapt the car as good as possible to the weather conditions out on track. And we have run to various different specifications on tires. So I believe when he short stinted, he went to kind of intermediate tire that then lead into the heavy wet conditions. And therefore it was optimum, even if we have to sacrifice the opportunity of a long stint for a better performing tire to put on the car.
And now looking forward, what time do you know that the race could maybe be restarted again?
Well, for the moment, the race director told us that for the next 1.5 hours, it will not be restarted. So therefore, we can also schedule now what we want to rebuild, what we want to service on the cars and how we act. And on that base, we have decided, as mentioned, to, for example, change the gearbox. So that will happen now. And then we have to see, I guess, as the race director himself, how the weather conditions will develop down here in the Eifel.
And just for clarity, the race doesn't get extended by 1.5 hours. It will still finish at 3:30 on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. The race will still finish at 3:30 in the afternoon. So whatever we stand still now won't be made up. So we won't expect a new lap record this time around.
And for a restart, they will start them off in the order they finished, in line. So it'll be one behind the other. And if you're a lap behind, you stay a lap behind. But the rest of everybody will have closed right up. So the big gap that we had relative to the other competitors has now effectively gone.
Absolutely. If that is the case, it's basically like a safety car, that if safety car would have gone out, we will be all in one crocodile, and that's how we will be guided out again when we restart.
And what are you going to be doing for the next 1.5 hours, Chris?
I'll be around here, see that we don't get over the moon, that we stay focused, we do those things that need to be done, but we don't over-repair the cars, we don't start out of emotions to over-prepare. It's important to stay focused. We are in the middle of a race.
Oh, fantastic. Chris, I'll let you get back to that. But for me, it's amazing to be back down here in the middle of just so many teams of different, and also including actually different brands in here. And to see it, I've honestly never seen anything like this in 35 years of racing. I know you've been telling me about it for such a long time, but you've got to see it to believe it. That's for everybody back there as well. You have to see this race to believe it. It is unbelievable, and it is unique. It's a Nürburgring 24 hours.
I love the fact that some potential planned maintenance is going on with some of the cars. A gearbox change, that's not an insubstantial bit of work to be doing. Down at Car Collection, one of their cars is having a bit of vinyl put on. That's about the only thing they're doing. They've just checked the front brakes, and they're just putting a new bit of vinyl on with a hairdryer down there. So there's different things going on.
I was going to say, did you not see what we showed behind the scenes was exactly that vinyl? And I said you're going to see bonnets and things get put in cars.
Exactly.
When I said that, I didn't actually think it was necessarily going to be right now. But it's exactly part of that preparation and the knowledge that they predict if a red flag happens, what would you want to try to do? And that's going on throughout the course of the race. And this is where we are right now, in the heart of it. I don't think you'll see anything that's more live than what we have today.
Extraordinary stuff there, Alan. I'll let you step out the way because there's so much going on there. I don't want you getting bundled over.
I'm small, but I'm getting in the way.
Thank you, Alan. Alan McNish down there in the pits, and thanks to Keith Ranke as well from Audi Sport for giving us time in this very, very busy moment down there in the pit lane. Delighted to say that once again I'm joined in the Audi Sport live studio by Frank Baylor. This is what the Nürburgring can throw up at any time of the year. I've been here in the normal times of May, June and July, and the race has been stopped with snow and hail. But ultimately, the decision has to be made by the race director, and it's always got to be safety first here.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we all expected it. I mean, weather forecast was very bad. And when it was getting dark, it started to rain as well. And as we could see on the onboard cameras, it was really difficult situations, and visibility was not very good. So I think it was the right decision, no doubt. And for the guys, as we just heard, it's of course you want to race, but on the other hand, now normally it was called night preparation. Now it's more preparation for the restart. And they do have time enough to do all the necessary things. For the drivers, maybe you are out of the rhythm now. It's always bad if you see that red flag, and you never know when are we going back into the cars. But at least they can have a little rest now, because you want to have some sleep during the 24-hour race. There's no doubt, and that's a good chance for everybody. And let's see when they restart the race.
I'm just looking down through the timing and scoring here on the lap charts to see, on the laptop here, to see what's going on, and just checking in with some of the other Audis that we've been following here, not just the ones at the very front of the field. And delighted to tell you that the GT Time Motorsport Audi R8, that's a GT4 car, so that runs in SP8. That's back up into second in class. The TCR cars have been doing very nicely as well, and they've been working very well in the bad weather that's out there. But at the sharp end of the field, it is that wonderful sight of seeing the top three then as all Audis. And no, hang on a second, that has just changed. That's interesting. They have just changed the timing to put the Porsche on top. That can't be right at the moment, but it was definitely the top three were Audis, and then 6, 7 and 8 were Audis as well, albeit 6 minutes behind. But as Alan explained, when we restart, they'll all be back together. And by my calculations, when I was looking there, it was the top 16 down to the Fricadelli Racing Porsche, the 31 car with Max Martin, who brought that car in. They are still on the lead lap.
Still in the same lap, so that means they are all coming closer together again. Which is, of course, good for our cars, which were a bit further behind. And but as you said, the impressive thing was, I mean, we are 8 hours into the race now, and coming from 11, 12, and 13th position, I guess, being there with 1, 2, 3, it's really impressive. And the pace was there. It was very impressive to see what Nico did at some stage of the race. And so it looks really, really good, and I hope they get everything well prepared for the restart, and they can continue like this.
I'm just checking this out with what's going on. I think they've taken the race back a lap to when the red flag was first thrown, and that's slightly changed what's going on. The Audis are still very much in the running, but at the moment, the KCMG Porsche has been scored at the head of the field with Josh Burton. Burton had just started, or was in the middle of his second stint there. But we'll get that confirmed for you. Clearly, once the red flag comes out, it's a very long time before everybody comes back into the pit lane. And whilst you're not actually racing at that point, from the moment that the red flag has been thrown, that's why you go back to the previous completed green flag lap, so that you don't disadvantage anybody, perhaps, who is making their way back slightly slower to the pit lane. What do the drivers do now, Frank? You ever been in this situation here?
Yes, actually, yes. I think 2 or 3 times, because you always have some issues with weather conditions and fog down there on the Nordschleife. So, yeah, it actually happened. What can you do? I mean, as I mentioned before, you try to have a rest, you find some sleep. Normally, you might have 2-3 hours of sleep, and let's see when they will restart the race. So for the one who has to be in the car next, it's not so easy, because he goes to bed, but he never knows when the phone will ring. For the others, it's quite relaxing now. But on the other hand, as I said, you are in the rhythm, you are focused, and you are hot to be in the car. So a big break, it's not really nice. I mean, you want to be out there. Unfortunately, weather conditions are bad, so you have to wait. But the longer you wait, the more difficult it is maybe to go back into the rhythm.
The first time that we came here to cover the 24 hours for English language on TV and radio was the 9th and 10th of June 2007. And we weren't due to do the whole race in those days. We shut down around about 10 o'clock at night and got some sleep and came back at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, not because I was woken up by the sound of the cars. I was woken up because there was no sound. And it was foggy. Even in June, it was so foggy that we couldn't run that race. And it didn't restart again till we got well into the morning, maybe 9, 10 o'clock. It's a long night here, and it's clearly going to be very difficult to understand what the circumstances out there until you start running cars on it. Is there a possibility, if this rain continues, that we might not restart in darkness? May the race director say that it is a bit too dangerous?
You never know. I mean, we get the next announcement at midnight. midnight. Well, I don't know what they are going to decide. As I said, the weather forecast says rain through all the night. And if there's too much standing water, they might delay it by another 2 hours maybe, but that's something we cannot predict, and we have to wait for the information.
All right, just if you're following along on live timing and scoring on the web, we've now gone back to lap number 39, which does have the Audi Sport Team Phoenix car leading in first position, from the Audi Sport Team Land in second, third the number 3, which is the Audi Sport Team Car Collection. The customer racing cars are headed up by the Phoenix Racing number 5 car in 10th position. So this is a slight difference from what we saw before. So they just adjusted this back to lap number 39. And now I reckon it is the top 16 down to the Porsche number 44 in 16th that is still on the lead lap. And the first car off the lead lap is the Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus, that lovely prototype that is in the SPX class. So still 16 cars on the lead lap at the moment. That could be subject to change, and I'm watching that at the moment on the timing and scoring screen. We know that there's nothing going to happen for an hour and 15 minutes. So that gives all of the Audi teams, whether it's Audi Sport or Audi Customer Racing, an opportunity to do that maintenance that Chris was saying. So as soon as they knew there was a red flag, they'd be thinking, right, what can we do in this amount of time, that amount of time? It's almost like going to your Audi service centre and saying, you know, what is the time for each individual job. And that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, sure, that's what they do. I mean, thanks God, our cars were running well. There are no big issues. So I think it's the normal service things, what they would normally do during the pit stops. So that's what they're going to do now. A bigger thing would maybe be changing brake discs and brake pads. I guess they'll go out with fresh ones at the restart, of course. So it's a good opportunity to check everything. You never know. I mean, they are already running for 8 hours, so you run the curbs. It's a tough circuit for the material. So it's good to check everything, and then you are well prepared for the restart, and you are sure everything is fine.
Well, what a day it's been to kick off the 50th anniversary running of the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Frank, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Alan McNish has been working very hard down in the pit lane. We're not back until 9 o'clock Central European Summertime Sunday morning, but if you keep your eyes on the portal at audiontrack.com, you will still be able to watch the international feed. For the moment, those guys will continue and feed you the information that comes out of race control. We're still an hour and 15 minutes away from the next update. Those guys will be talking amongst themselves and trying to get the information for you, and you can also look at the live timing and scoring. If you want to fill a little bit of time in, then you can go back and see some of our live shows from earlier on today and indeed yesterday, when we did a lot of explanation about how the race and how Audi Sport and how the Audi Sport Customer Racing works. You can do that as well. Whatever you're doing, don't go too far away, because when it restarts, it's going to be an absolute cracker, and we'll be back to set it up for you. If there's been racing in the night, we'll give you all the details. If there haven't, we'll update you 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. For the moment, from the Nürburgring Nordschleife, from the 24 Hours, and from the Audi Sport Live Studio, I'm John Hindhaugh saying have a lovely Saturday night. Bye-bye.